Pat Matlock of West Asheville Yoga and Freedom of Movement Body Works in Asheville, North Carolina. And today I'm going to show you targeted rolling for the hamstring muscles. I have an array of tools here. We're going to start with a foam roller, and if you just have a foam roller, you'll be fine. But I want to also show you some techniques working with the Theracane and various balls and a yoga block or some kind of prop like that to help you get deeper into your hamstrings. The hamstrings muscles is a group of 3 muscles with 4 heads that live on the back of the thigh. They start up at the sitting bone and along the shaft of the femur. Then they come down into these tendons that you can feel right above the knee and attach below the knee. So these muscles bend the knee, and they also lift the leg up and back behind you in extension. The hamstrings, I like to start rolling them with the foam roller, even if I'm going to use other tools later. So I bring the foam roller right up below the sitting bones. So I get up at those upper attachments, and I like to have my opposite knee bent, so I'm kind of sitting on the side. So that gives me a way to launch my body using my opposite knee. And I can just start clearing the hamstrings with my foam roller. With the targeted rolling, we do the fascial connective tissue release, and we also focus on trigger points. So this is a great technique for moving through the fascial work. If it's too much pressure or if that's hard for you, you can lean back and place your arms behind you and just roll along the foam roller that way. Turning the thigh at different angles will access different areas of the hamstring muscles. If you're finding the foam roller is enough pressure and it feels very tender, just work with the foam roller. If you have some other tools around, you could use, like this is a 4-inch air-filled play ball. And I just like to slide that right underneath at the top section of the hamstrings, right below the sitting bone, and just kind of wiggle across the tendons there to free up any binding that's happening there. I find that the balls can work their way in between the muscles a little more effectively than the foam roller itself. So I'll work through this way. And then the air-filled ball has a good amount of pressure. And then I like to get a little more pressure, a little more deeply into my hamstrings, into my trigger points. So I like to use a pink ball and a yoga block. And if you don't have a yoga block, you can use a shoebox or a Tupperware container. You could use a tennis ball, any other kind of ball. And you just want to get that in there and find some tender spot. Maybe bend and straighten the leg as you're doing that to do active release techniques on the trigger points themselves. Trigger points are just really sore focal points of tension in the muscle. Trigger points are how your muscles hold tension. So you want to find those places where it feels particularly exquisite. And then sink your way into that point and just take a breath or two. Then I move around, I find another point. I only maybe do 3 or 4 or 5 points in any given session because I don't want the muscle to become aggravated by my work. So I'm just on this one last point. If you have a Theracane, you could use the Theracane in this way by sliding the curved end, that knob underneath, and then lifting the opposite end up, and that will drive that point up into the muscle where you can find tender spots and give a little attention to those trigger points. After I've worked specifically on the points, and the points tend to live a little bit up by the attachment sites and then really right in the middle of the back of the thigh, so that's where I focused my attention. It's nice to give a little roll again to help with the circulation. You've opened up blood supply and increasing nervous system activity. So just rolling over with the foam roller one more time and then coming into a stretch for the hamstrings. There are many, many ways to stretch the hamstrings. I like to come up on one knee, bend my knee a little bit, and then tilt my pelvis back to drag the upper attachment of the hamstrings down. That way, if I'm only feeling the stretch here or here, I can bend the knee a little bit so that I can feel the stretch more deeply in the center of the belly of the muscle. And then release. And then you would want to go ahead and do the other side. Starting again with a foam roller, and then working your way more and more deeply with whatever tools that you have. Thanks.